overseas, and we create conditions that enable extremists to recruit. Thank you. We have 15 minutes for questions, answers. No, please no speeches, just questions and answers, because you remember Leslie Gore's song, "It's My Party." Now, those of you that are old enough know the next line is, "I'll cry if I want to." I just like the first line. It's my party. So you can ask questions, they can be provocative questions, you can say you disagree with me, but get to the question. Otherwise, I will say, please get to your question so we can get yeah.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for coming. Great speech. I really didn't pay attention to the Middle East until 9/11. I've read a lot since then trying to keep up on the whole range of countries and what's gone on, especially vis-a-vis the Cold War and the U.S.'s influence in that. First, I just want to ask you a quick question. If you're familiar with the film, it was a BBC production by Adam Curtis called The Power of Nightmares.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
It is excellent. It's available on the internet. I highly recommend it. Basically, the thesis of the film is it's 3 hours. It's a parallel rise of Islamic fundamentalism and the neoconservative movement. And it traces them from the 40s with Leo Strauss in Chicago at the Chicago School and Saad Qutb coming over from Egypt. It's fascinating. Anybody, please see Power of Nightmares. I guess the question I want to throw at you is, one of the aspects of the authoritarianism that the U.S. backs is anti-communist, anti-left, the Cold War relics. We helped Saddam Hussein come to power with the Ba'ath Party to get rid of the leftist influence in Iraq. We helped, you can look at the Shah, when he got into power, went after the left. This has really hurt the political development within countries. And of course, we've seen it in Latin America too. Are we in an age now where the left can be allowed to develop? Because it seems like the only authoritarians the U.S. complains about is Chavez in Venezuela, and he keeps getting elected, which is a kind of funny thing for an authoritarian. What are your thoughts?
I think that the left will have a very difficult situation, because I think that if it is a left that can deal with religion, then it's okay. The fact is, majorities of people in Muslim countries and communities see religion as very important to their life. And so if it's a left that is anti-religion, is secular in the sense of being anti-religious, then no, it won't fly. And it also obviously is also going to have pressure from authoritarian governments, but also many within. If it is what I would call a kind of liberal left, and one that is also open to the role of religion, then I think it can move. But for the foreseeable future, religious discourse is a great source of legitimacy. It needs to be used for legitimacy. Yeah.
Thank you for coming. But other than the Gallup poll, I've got some big term papers this semester, and you referenced going back for hard data. What are your favorite sources? Pew?
Pew has a lot of data on this area. Zogby also, but not as much. But Pew and Gallup have done the most surveys, both on attitudes in the Muslim world as well as Muslim communities in America and Europe. If you go to Pew's website, it's easy to find. If you go to Gallup's website, go to their MuslimStudies.com or something, Gallup.com, and you'll find all kinds of, not only do we find data, you'll find articles based on the data.
Thank you.
Good. Yes. Right here.
My name is Mohammed Lufa. I am professor of emeritus at Cairo University. And I was honored by giving a comment on your great president about his lecture in Cairo University. I have seen this opportunity about meeting such a great man giving such an excellent lecture to have few points. One, I see that the media in America always consider the terrorist Muslim. Actually, the terrorist should be considered terrorist, not Muslim. Any person who resorts to use violence in the name of Islam or any religion really matter how he was born, Muhammad or David or John. So, another point, so the media should never say Muslim terrorist. Sometimes I suffer at the airport because my name is Muhammad. And that's wrong, because terrorist is not linked to Islam. Anybody that resorts to Islam has no religion.
But, okay, just now we got that out of the way. You mentioned the dichotomy about the right and the left, right? Now you have the right conservatives. But what about the stronghold that corporate America, which includes both people from the right and the left, have on foreign policy? Because you didn't mention that's. I just wanted to see your take on that. The corporate America, the stronghold that has Federal Reserve and whatnot. So,
Well, you know, I'm not an expert on corporate America. I mean, members of my family are, but I'm not. I think that part of the problem that we have, not only in the Muslim world, but globally, is the issue of globalization. And that is, to what extent can one demonstrate that globalization is not simply still something that benefits the powerful countries more than those that aren't. And what fuels that is a corporate culture, which we've seen in our own country and Europe in terms of our domestic problems, a corporate culture of greed. My wife's a former corporate executive. She didn't represent that, but that's, she did get a golden parachute though. Anyway, yes, I married well. But the reality of it is that corporate culture of greed means that it enables corporations to operate with an understanding of capitalism, which can be very narrow and exploitive. More and more of them are being concerned when I go into stuff in Norwegian companies and other places, because they suddenly are up against, you know, the fact that, geez, things could really unravel, and that even something like the cartoon crisis in Denmark, you could have repercussions. But I think, you know, part of the problem is that until a critical mass of corporations begin to change their corporate culture when they deal internationally, and what they look for in administrations in terms of either doors, you know, opening and the way they want to see doors opening, they can actually become, you know, part of the problem. And I think that that's a real issue. And I think that Dick Cheney represents the worst of that. Not only because of his political position, but the company that he worked for, and the influence that it continues to have, the money that it's made, etc., and the way in which, you know, we just look the other way with regard to Halliburton. And if you look at the problems that we've had for 30 or 40 years with major defense contractors, you know, let alone when people then start dealing overseas. The first President Bush, after the first Gulf War, announced that he was going to work at limiting arms sales. That was a major thing in the Middle East. And one of the first things he did, because of the, you know, the pressure, was for America to rush in, you know, and sell even more weapons and hardware, etc., and the Europeans do the same thing, etc. And so that's where corporations become a major part of the problem. Yeah, next. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize there was anybody else.
You kind of touched on this already, but I just wanted to find out how big an impact do you think media has had, both national and international TV stations like Al Jazeera, on the way people view Muslims, people as in both Americans and people overseas as well as Muslims?
Oh, I think if you look for a company named Media Tenor, they've done a lot of studies on this and others. Okay, if you look at media coverage and the nature of media coverage, studies done on this. The vast amount of media coverage is usually negative, A. And B, when it does cover it, it uses indiscriminately often the word Muslim, okay? Now, media has begun to become a little bit more self-critical, but by and large, it's a major issue. But where does the media really come in? One of the things I talk about in my book on Holy War is, why do they hate us? And then the second thing I say is because they see more than we see. And that is one of the things that happened was the globalization of communications, you see. And some of us here are old enough to remember that when you had World War II or the Korean War, you didn't find out about what happened on the front until a week later when you went to the movie